Twins take DNA tests for fun, but when results come in, a dark secret was uncovered. "It's time for school, girls," Mrs. Shakes called out, her voice echoing up the narrow stairwell. Being a mother was a tough job, but being a mother of twins was something else entirely. Before Emma and Lily were born, she'd fantasize about matching outfits, cute pictures, and the admiring glances from strangers. Reality, however, had other plans. Before we get started, subscribe to the channel and post in the comments where you're watching from. The financial strain hit first. Two of everything: cribs, car seats, high chairs, and an endless supply of diapers that seemed to evaporate overnight. Her credit card bills grew as fast as the twins did. Sometimes, lying awake at night, she'd calculate the future costs of 2 college tuitions and feel her chest tighten. "Mom, Emma took my hairbrush again!" Lily's voice pierced through her memories of those early days. "Did not, I have my own," Emma shouted back. Mrs. Shakes rubbed her temples, remembering the sleepless nights when they were infants. The girls had developed their own synchronized crying schedule. When one finally settled, the other would start up, like a cruel game of musical babies. She'd pace the nursery for hours, bouncing one child while attempting to soothe the other, with her foot rocking the bassinet. Her husband had tried to help, but he'd returned to work after 2 weeks, leaving her alone in the fog of exhaustion. Learning to be a mother felt like being thrown into the deep end of a pool, and learning to mother twins felt like being thrown into the ocean during a storm. Every milestone came with double the anxiety. The twins had different stages of development. When Emma started crawling, Lily was still struggling to roll over. The pediatrician assured her this was normal, but she spent countless nights researching developmental delays, convinced she was somehow failing them both. She had imagined that things would get better as they age, but now she missed when they were babies. "Girls, breakfast is getting cold," she called again, laying out 2 plates of toast and scrambled eggs. The sound of thundering footsteps followed, and her now 7-year-old daughters burst into the kitchen, identical in every way possible. They had the same blonde hair, length and blue eyes. Their pointed nose was another thing people complimented. They even sounded alike, but they were opposite in nature. Emma, the bold one, wore her blonde hair wild and untamed, while Lily, the cautious twin, had already neatly braided her own hair. Mrs. Shakes watched them bicker over the last strawberry, remembering how they'd once shared everything, from the womb to their first steps. The challenges were still there, just different now. Instead of synchronized midnight feedings, she dealt with synchronized temper tantrums. Instead of double diaper changes, it was double homework help and double the drama over playground politics. But it wasn't all bad. She loved her kids, and there were moments that made it all worthwhile. Like when Emma defended Lily from a bully at school, or when Lily helped Emma master her multiplication tables, or the quiet evenings when they'd all curl up on the couch, one daughter under each arm, their breathing falling into the same rhythm they'd shared before birth. "Mom, can you fix my braid? It's all wonky," Emma asked, mouth full of toast. "After you finish chewing?" Mrs. Shakes replied, smoothing her daughter's hair. "And Lily, yes, you can have the last strawberry. I saw you eyeing it." Lily's face lit up, while Emma shrugged, already focused on something else. They were so different now, yet still connected by an invisible thread that Mrs. Shakes knew she'd never fully understand. Being a mother of twins meant mastering the art of division. She had to learn how to equally divide her time, her energy, her love, while somehow keeping everything whole. As she fixed Emma's braid and watched Lily savor her strawberry victory, Mrs. Shakes smiled to herself. Yes, being a mother of twins meant learning motherhood twice as fast, loving twice as hard, and worrying twice as much. But it also meant twice the hugs, twice the "I love yous," and twice the joy of watching her children grow into their own unique selves. "Now backpacks and shoes or we'll be late," she announced, returning to the morning routine. Another day of double everything was beginning, and despite the challenges, she wouldn't have it any other way. At school, Mrs. Peterson, the science teacher, taught the students about DNA. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, is the molecule that carries the genetic instructions necessary for the growth, development, functioning, and reproduction of all living organisms and many viruses. It is the blueprint of life, encoding the information needed to build and maintain an organism. It simply means you can trace your ancestral lineage. Isn't that cool? The students were amazed. They loved Mrs. Peterson. She had all the fun topics and games. In each class, a student gets inspired to do something extraordinary. This time, it was Emma's turn. Emma couldn't stop thinking about DNA after Mrs. Peterson's science class. During recess, while Lily was reading under their usual oak tree, Emma paced back and forth, kicking at wood chips. "We could just ask Mom and Dad for a test for our birthday," Lily suggested, not looking up from her book. "No way! They'd say we're too young or it's too expensive." Emma flopped down beside her sister. "Remember when they said no to the chemistry set because they thought we'd blow up the garage?" "To be fair, you did say you wanted to make explosions," Lily pointed out, dog-earing her page. Emma sat up suddenly, her eyes bright with that look that always made Lily nervous. "I've got it. Remember when I helped Dad set up his PayPal account on his phone last week? Well, I kind of maybe saw his password." "Emma!" Lily's eyes widened in horror. "That's stealing." "Not if we pay him back. I've got $43 saved from helping Mrs. Johnson walk her dog, and you've got your birthday money from Grandma." Lily bit her lip. "I don't know. Don't you want to know if we're really identical? What if one of us is adopted and they never told us?" Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "That's ridiculous. We are identical. We are literally the same person. You're just really rude," Lily said, but her voice wavered. She'd always wondered why she was better at math, while Emma excelled at sports. Besides, where would we even get the tests? Emma pulled out her tablet, the one they were only supposed to use for educational games. She'd been researching DNA testing companies all week. "This one lets you pay online and ships in unmarked packages. We could have it sent to Mrs. Johnson's house. She loves me, and she's always forgetting her packages anyway. She'd think it was just another one of her cat toy orders." Lily's resolve was weakening. She had to admit she was curious too. But what about the samples? Mom and Dad would see us doing the swabs. "We'll do it during our next sleepover at Mrs. Johnson's. We're supposed to go this Saturday, remember? While she's taking her afternoon nap, we can do the swabs and I'll put them in her mailbox for pickup." Lily stared at her sister, impressed despite herself. Emma had really thought this through. "What if we get caught? Then we'll just say we were curious about science. Dad's always saying we should take an interest in STEM, right?" Emma grinned. "Come on, Lily. Don't you want to be like those twin scientists who discovered their DNA was different after one went to space?" "That's not exactly what happened." Lily started, but she could feel her resistance crumbling. "Fine, but if we get in trouble, I'm telling everyone it was your idea." "Deal." Emma hugged her sister. "Now let me use your tablet too. If we order from both at the same time, it'll look less suspicious on Dad's PayPal." That afternoon, while their parents were busy preparing dinner, the twins huddled in their shared bedroom. Emma carefully typed in their father's PayPal information, while Lily kept watch at the door, her heart pounding. "Done!" Emma whispered triumphantly, showing Lily the confirmation emails. "Now we just have to wait until Saturday." Lily nodded, already imagining all the ways this could go wrong. But as she watched her sister dance around their room in excitement, she couldn't help but smile. Maybe Emma's crazy schemes weren't always such a bad idea. As they headed down to dinner, Emma bumped her shoulder against Lily's. "Hey, if it turns out we're not identical, I'm still letting you copy my English homework." "You mean you'll still be copying my math homework?" Lily corrected, and they both giggled. Mrs. Shakes called up the stairs. "Girls! Dinner!" "Coming!" they answered in unison, sharing a secret smile. Their mother had no idea that her daughters were about to embark on their biggest adventure yet, all because of a simple science lesson about DNA. The weight of their secret felt both thrilling and terrifying as they sat down at the dinner table, watching their dad check his phone notifications while their mom served lasagna. The twins exchanged glances, silently agreeing that what their parents didn't know wouldn't hurt them, at least not until the results came in. 6 weeks after their secret DNA sampling at Mrs. Johnson's house, Emma sat refreshing her tablet's email every few minutes, while Lily pretended to read, sneaking glances at the screen. They'd managed to keep their secret all this time, though the wait had been excruciating. It's here, Emma suddenly whispered, her hand grabbing Lily's arm so hard it hurt. 2 emails. They huddled together in their window seat, their favorite spot for sharing secrets. Outside, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across their backyard, where their tire swings swayed gently in the breeze. You open yours first, Lily said, her voice trembling. Emma tapped her email, scanning through the scientific terminology until she reached the results section, her face scrunched in confusion. This can't be right. It says Mom isn't a match. And Dad, he's not either. What? Lily's hands shook as she opened her own results. The same information stared back at her. But that's impossible. Maybe we did the test wrong? Emma kept scrolling, her face growing paler. No, look. It says we're identical twins, just like we thought. But, her voice cracked, we're not matched to Mom and Dad. The reality of what they were reading hit them both at once. Lily burst into tears while Emma sat in the stunned silence, her mind racing through every birthday, every Christmas, every time their parents had told them stories about the day they were born. Had they been lying all this time? Emma whispered, her own tears starting to fall. What's wrong? Mrs. Shake's voice came from the doorway, making both girls jump. She heard Lily crying. Girls? She was scared that something bad happened to her girls. Emma tried to hide the tablet, but in her panic, she knocked it off the window seat. It clattered to the floor, screen up, the results still clearly visible. Mrs. Shakes picked it up, her expression changing as she read the screen. All the color drained from her face. John, she called out, her voice shaking. John, come up here, please. Minutes later, the twins sat on their bed, holding hands tightly as their parents stood before them, looking more serious than they'd ever seen them. How did you get these tests? Their father asked, his voice gentle but strained. Emma, for once, couldn't find her voice. It was Lily who spoke up, barely audible through her tears. We used Dad's PayPal. We were going to pay it back, I promise. We just wanted to know if we were really identical. Mrs. Shakes sat down heavily on Emma's desk chair, while Mr. Shakes ran his hands through his hair, a gesture both girls had inherited, or so they'd thought. We were going to tell you, Mrs. Shakes finally said, reaching for her daughter's hands. When you were older, when we thought you could understand. We're not babies anymore, Emma said, finding her voice at last. We can understand now. Please, are we adopted? The parents exchanged a long look, years of shared secrets passing between them. Finally, their father nodded. Yes, Mrs. Shakes admitted, squeezing their hands. But you are our daughters in every way that matters. We chose you. We wanted you so much. Your mother, your biological mother, Mr. Shakes clarified, his voice thick with emotion, was very young. She knew she couldn't give you the life you deserved. We had been trying to have children for years, and when we heard about twin girls who needed a home, he smiled sadly. It felt like a miracle. Why didn't you tell us? Lily asked, her grip on Emma's hand tightening. We were afraid, Mrs. Shakes admitted. Afraid you might feel different, or that you might think we loved you less somehow. But we've loved you since the moment we saw you. 2 tiny babies holding hands in your crib at the adoption agency. Did our real mother? Emma started, but Mrs. Shakes cut her off. I am your real mother, she said firmly. Being a mother isn't about DNA. It's about every sleepless night, every scraped knee, every bedtime story. It's about loving you so much that sometimes it feels like my heart might burst. Your mother's right, Mr. Shakes added, sitting beside them on the bed. Family isn't just about biology. It's about love, about choice, about who's there for you every single day. Emma and Lily sat in silence, processing this information. The room felt different somehow, as if all their memories were being rewritten with this new knowledge. Do you hate us? Lily finally asked in a small voice. For finding out like this? Oh, sweetheart, no. Mrs. Shakes moved to sit between them, wrapping an arm around each girl. We're just sorry you had to find out this way. We should have trusted that you were old enough to know the truth. Do you? Emma hesitated. Do you know anything about her? Our biological mother? Mr. Shakes nodded. We do. We have letters, pictures. We've kept everything, waiting for the right time to share it with you. Would you like to see?" Both girls nodded, their tears slowly subsiding. As their father left to retrieve the box of memories they'd never known existed, Emma turned to their mother, the only mother they'd ever known. "Mom," she said quietly, "I'm sorry we went behind your back with the tests." Mrs. Shakes pulled them closer. "I know, sweetie, but maybe it was time for the truth to come out. No more secrets in this family, okay?" "No more secrets," Lily agreed, resting her head on her mother's shoulder. They sat together in silence, waiting for their father to return, each lost in their own thoughts about what family really means. The afternoon sun continued to stream through the window, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air, much like the memories and truths that now swirled around them, settling into a new pattern, a new understanding of who they were and where they came from. But most importantly, they knew who they were going home with that night, the parents who had chosen them, loved them, and would always be there to hold them through whatever discoveries life had in store.